I know that this may come as a big surprise, but there are actually things that your horse needs to work on in order to improve. And lunging is one of those things. So many riders, they just expect their horses to, come out of the womb knowing how to act and be responsible and work with them while on the lunge line, and that's just not true. And today I want to go through the 5 biggest challenges that I see riders experience from their horse's perspective when it comes to lunging, and why those things won't work. They need to be addressed before you and your horse can go forward. Okay, let's dive in. Hey there, and welcome to the Daily Strides podcast. My name is Lorna Leeson. I'm an equestrian trainer and coach, and I help riders from all over the world, particularly those working without an instructor or trainer, to work better with their horse so that they get results and they can also create a better partnership. Okay, so today I want to dive into the second part of this whole being on the struggle bus when it comes to lunging, okay? I want to help you if you and your horse are not using this as a tool or not using it effectively as a tool. I want to help you pinpoint maybe a couple of things that you can begin working on this coming week so that you can really and truly begin getting the benefit of this, because I tell you, the benefits are so much, okay? It is so good. I literally want to shout this from the rooftops. All riders should be regularly using lunging in their training programs with their horses. It's just a matter of understanding that you and your horse were not born knowing how to lunge. You have to really work at it. It's just like riding, okay? You have to work at it. You have to get the aids straightened out. You have to get the communication straightened out. You just have to get all the things straightened out. Last week I spoke about the things that you can work on. This week I want to speak about the 5 things that I see show up most often for horses when it comes to lunging, and how it can really and truly hold them back from actually making this something worthwhile. So, very first thing, and this may seem like Captain Obvious, but you'd be surprised how often this shows up. Do you know your horse does not understand what a circle is? Now, I know you might be absolutely flabbergasted at that piece of information there, but it is true, okay? He wasn't born knowing what a circle is. He also, up to the point where you begin to introduce lunging, has been used to you, or whoever has been working with him, always being like pretty close, hey? Like right beside them, or even on their back. And now all of a sudden, you're asking him to not only go on a circle, but to go on a circle being, 6 meters, maybe even more, away from you. I know, okay? So many horses just do not understand that concept. And when we, as riders, begin to actually see that for what it is, okay, and make a conscious effort to begin to help our horses to understand, first of all, what a circle is, okay, and what's expected. And secondly, that it's okay, you can work a little bit further away from me, buddy, okay? When we begin to do that, it can transform everything. Very often you get horses, they're falling in, they're falling out. You can get horses who keep wanting to turn into you, okay? They're like, I don't like being out here on my own. Let me go back in there to you, okay? There's all of this going on, and all it is just a simple misunderstanding. There's a lack of communication. I suppose a lack of you clearly explaining what you expect from your horse. You need to do all of that so as you and your horse can begin to work forward together, okay, on the lunge. Okay, the second thing I see happen a lot is a lack of consistent rhythm and balance, okay? Now, when your horse starts lunging initially, he might lose the run of himself, okay? He'll see that you are indeed asking him to work a little bit more, quote unquote, independently. And that can really excite some horses. They're like, woohoo, this is fantastic, okay? Now, what tends to happen when that happens is that your horse may not be the most balanced, okay? Like, there's definitely a little bit of wobbliness going on there. Now, this can also stem from the fact that, like I said before, your horse is actually out there working on his own. He's a little bit unsure of what's going on. And when he's unsure, it also can, affect the rhythm and the balance that's happening, okay? So I think that instead of getting upset about it, just see it for what it is, take note of it, okay? It's all information. And then from there, you can now begin to help your horse to understand that yes, he is being asked to work slightly more independently, and that means that he has to take on a little bit more responsibility, and that comes down to maintaining and then correcting a little bit more himself, okay? Are you not going to help him at all? No, of course not. You're going to be there. You're literally right there with him, okay? Albeit a little bit further away, but you are there with him. You're going to help him, you're going to support him. And it's really, really important to help your horse to do that. Now, I do think very often that as riders, we can forget, especially with young horses or green horses or horses that are coming back into work after a break, that, you know, going on a circle for a significant length of time can be challenging, especially if physically you are not maybe as developed as you could be or as somebody wants you to be, okay? So give your horse a little bit of grace as well. If your horse is coming back or he's green or if he's young, okay, it's going to take a little bit longer. So give them that grace. I think it's really, really important, okay? Now, that all being said, one of the things that I see horses struggle with the most when on the lunge and it's just not working is that they don't understand the aids. So can you see there's a bit of a theme here? Yeah. A lot of the time horses just don't understand what you're asking. They're like, sorry, what's the question? And because they know you want an answer, they start just firing random answers at you, okay? You need to make sure that you are becoming really, really clear. And this is down to you again. You're going to have to work on those aids so they are clear and that your horse understands so that you have that clear communication, okay? And just like riding, you and your horse need to learn the aids. You need to learn how to communicate this way, okay? Listen, if your aids are a little bit wishy-washy, okay? Or maybe they're even contradicting each other. You know, I spoke last week about the whole position. And if that's wrong and you're then doing something else that contradicts that, you can imagine how confusing it would be to your horse, okay? So get clear on the aids. Spend time, the two of you, first of all, getting clear on the aids. You get clear of them in your head and then making sure that your horse understands what's going on. Now, the next challenge that I see crop up an awful lot when it comes to horses and not lunging or working on the lunge as well as they could is because there's a lot of anxiety around the whip. Now, whether this is from you, whether this is from somebody else, and I'm not saying that you intentionally done anything, okay? Very often it's just down to, and again, I mentioned this last week, riders just not understanding how to use the lunging whip when they're lunging, okay? Seeing it as what it's called, a whip, instead of what it should be called, a pointer or an extender, okay? I think that some horses really do have a lot of anxiety around the whip, okay? And again, I think that it comes down to us. One of our responsibilities is to begin explaining to our horses that the whip is a tool, okay? It's either to point things out or to extend your aids. That's all it is. It's got the wrong name. And we need to help our horses to, especially horses that have a negative association when it comes to the whip, to see it as being neutral. And then through our partnership with the horse, through the fact that your horse trusts you, okay, and this could be a big kind of a partnership, a connection building opportunity for you and your horse going forward. But through that then, you can help to desensitize your horse to the whip and that he understands that you're using it. It is neutral. It's neither here nor there. It's not good or bad. It's just a thing. And that you have no intention, like never will use it in a way that he must have anxiety or feel fear around that. And I think that that's really important. I think a lot of riders, when they come up against this challenge, okay, so when they have a horse or they meet a horse who for whatever reason has a lot of anxiety around the whip, okay, and whether this is being ridden or on the ground, whatever, okay, lunging, it doesn't make any difference. A lot of riders will just not use the whip. But how I see this is that if this was your leg, okay, so a lot of horses also have anxiety and issues around people's legs, around riders' legs, okay? So if that was the case and you were like, okay, we just won't use our leg then, you're not really helping things. And I really do think that further down the line, you might actually be creating issues, okay? So I do think that it's important that you can help your horse to see that the whip is neutral and that he doesn't have to be afraid of it. It's just an aid. It's a way to communicate, okay? And then the fifth and final challenge that many horses have while being lunged is to do with energy. You often find there's either too much or too little, okay? I know it sounds like very like Goldilocks now, but we want to go for the just right. Now, what I mean here is sometimes you get horses who just will not move forward. They don't want to move forward. They are non-responsive. They've no interest in being there. And then the other side of that coin, you get the horse who really takes this working independently bit like to the next level. Woohoo! The day is young and so are we. And he just is enjoying himself. He's enjoying just being there. And you're thinking, oh, well, if you're like me anyway, you're like, the legs. Please stop doing that. So it's really, really important to understand that too much or too little energy has actually really to do with relaxation. And just like riding, relaxation is really important in lunging. So when we're talking relaxation, we're thinking about managing the tension, okay? We need to learn how to manage the tension so that the level of tension that's there is actually the correct level, the right level for what we want to do with our horses, okay? So that's really important as well. It's important to remember that your horse can't talk to you, okay? So often horses communicate through their behaviors, and so often we maybe respond a little bit too negatively to that. Remember, they can't open their mouth and say like, listen, I don't enjoy that, or listen, I don't understand that, or I'm sorry, like, I don't know, I'm lost here, can you help me, okay, or whatever, or that feels a little bit uncomfortable, whatever, okay? They can't do that. And so often it's how they respond to something. That's how they're showing you what they want to say. And it's really important as a rider that you take the time to listen to your horse, okay? And to help and to guide them where you can in order to make the partnership work better, make them feel better about being there. You'll feel better about being there, strengthen the bond, strengthen the partnership, strengthen the whole thing, but do it through lunging. I think it's such a special way that you can work with your horse. It's so good for like everything, all of the things, okay? But again, it has to be done right. And if you would like to get off on the right hoof with your horse with lunging, I've got a free resource for you. You can pop on over to stridesforsuccess.com/3 days. And it's the number 3, it's numeral 3 days, okay? And I'll link to it in the show notes of this episode as well, but it will help you to get going with your horse on the lunge successfully in 3 days or less. Okay, I'm going to leave it there. Have a great day, keep well, and I'll chat to you soon. Be good. Bye.